Welcome to the Smart CEO Smart Chat. I am Kyra Hardwick, and I am thrilled to be here with you. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that this episode will be an incredible influence on the way that you do the work that you do every day. So whether you're a smart CEO, working from home, working from the office, simply navigating your life and family, whatever it is, today's the day you made a great decision to tune into our podcast and get this smart talk. So let's dig in.
All right. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Smart CEO podcast. I am your host, Alena Conley, and I am the program manager for the Smart CEO cohort, and I'm also the senior division leader for coaching and people development at the Kyra Company. And I am so excited today to be joined by one of our newest cohort members, Angel Cornelius. She is the CEO of Maison 276. Welcome to the podcast today.
Alena, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much. You and the Smart CEO team.
Absolutely. So first, we'll just start getting to know you a little bit, more about your entrepreneurial journey, how you got started, and then tell us a little bit more about your business.
Yes. So I'm very much an unintentional entrepreneur in that I had no intention of starting the company. I was just solving a decades long personal pain point, and that was products for my hair. I've always had silver hair, not this much, but my mother found my first silver strand when I was a little girl. So I've grown up with this hair and understand the challenges and what it means to have silver hair. And silvers and blondes, we're hair sisters. We have the same concerns. It's essentially hair without melanin. It's colorless hair. And the challenges that we have with our hair is that imagine if you had one white shirt that you had to wear every day. No matter how diligent you were in washing it, it would just get dull and dingy. And that's the problems that we solve for. And so I had been using products that I hated, frankly, because they just weren't effective all of my adult life. And I'd always been a bit of a beauty DIYer before that was even a term. And so I just decided I was going to try to make hair products from scratch in my kitchen to solve my own personal pain point. And that was how to take care of my silver hair and use a product that didn't have purple dyes because 99% of the products for our hair have these nasty purple pigments and they stain your hair, they stain your clothes. They're literally a mess. And you can't use them every single time you shampoo your hair. So you wind up buying other products like regular shampoos, like what you would use. And so it's very expensive and messy and inefficient. And that was just the problem I was trying to solve just for myself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So when did you start the business, and did you have to get some type of like chemist, or what was the process of bringing it from DIY to an actual business where you have valuable products?
And so my first customers were actually my friends who on accident found out that I was making beauty products in my kitchen and they harassed me to make enough to sell to them. And
Mhm.
so I first began the enterprise on Etsy, which is, it used to be a platform for only handmade products. Now you can sell anything on Etsy. But when it first started out, it's for only handmade products. And that's how I was able to basically create a system just to sell people product. And so it just took on a life of its own, honestly. And it was a very initially local organic growth. People knew I was selling products, so they would invite me to local events. You know how you go to something and vendors with tables set up and they've got their smartphone and they're swiping cards like that is how I started. But I am very grateful for those humble beginnings because one, it taught me how to talk to customers about my product. It taught me how to explain how my product could help solve their pain points, whether it was with their hair or skin, because I also had skincare products. And it taught me how to listen to what customers really want. And then I could go back and see, can I make that thing too?
Mhm.
And I would say our first recognition as, oh, this is the thing was we got discovered by Essence.
Mm.
when I was selling products in my kitchen. And that's actually what forced me to engage a chemist
Oh,
because I knew like I can't, like I was a science major in college. So I knew the products I was making in my kitchen, that was not a commercially viable product. Like now I needed something that had shelf life that could move from one environment to another and still maintain integrity. And so that's when I set out to, through Google, find a cosmetic chemist that would actually use my formulas and take those formulas and create a commercially viable product. And that was very difficult to do because most companies, one, don't want to produce a small number because what you think that you're producing in your kitchen and, oh, I need thousands. No, most manufacturers don't even want to turn on their machine for less than 50,000 units.
oh,
And then I only needed like 1 ounce sizes. So that's and the other thing is that they don't really want to be working with your chemistry, your kitchen chemistry. They want to sell you products that they already create, right? And that's white labeling. And so you just buy something from a manufacturer, you put your label on it. And
yeah.
so now that's how you get it out into the market. And that's a very easy way and not an unusual way to start a beauty brand, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted them to use my formulas. And so I was very fortunate to eventually find another woman-owned business that was able to work with my formulations. And that is the first time that I actually got a commercially viable product onto the market. I would say my next big break was winning QVC's The Big Find because was a visual medium and it was an opportunity for me to dispel the myth that Black beauty founders only make products for Black women. And so on QVC, I was able to have models of all hair types and textures, all ethnicities, all skin tones. And that was really my truly big break on the national scene that this is, yes, this is a obviously Black woman, but she has created a product that is texture agnostic. And I like to say our customer looks like America. So
Okay.
that I would say was my big break.
And what was the timeline between you doing like your first paint, like DIY, to like getting a chemist to then getting an asset?
I started engaging with the chemist in like 2019.
Okay.
Like because what happened was initially I was selling skincare products because I didn't think other people had the same hair concerns that I had. I literally thought I was a unicorn. And so I would go to these local events and women would say, but tell me about your hair. If my hair looked like yours, I might stop
Right.
dyeing it. And I
Right.
was like, oh, it's the hair product. I was already making it at
Yeah.
home. I just didn't know other women had that problem. And so I immediately pivoted
Mm.
and went to the chemist and said, hey, we need to, here are my formulas again. And so that was in 2018. And that was also when I realized like what I was doing was not sustainable. And that was working my full time job, 50 hours a week, being on call all the time
What were you
because I was
doing?
a healthcare administrator.
Okay.
I ran a very busy clinic for Texas Children's Hospital and coming home and then working the business at night, getting like sometimes 3, 4 hours sleep,
Mhm.
waking up in the morning, doing it all over again. And this is like when I had a manufacturer, we were shipping products out, and it just got to a point where I knew that was not sustainable. And I had to ask myself, what would this look like if I gave it 100% of me instead of what's left of me at the end of the day?
Mhm.
And that was in 2019. Even like it feels like it was 100 years ago, but it really wasn't. That I left Texas. Yes, I left in 2019, and that was also at the beginning of the year. And in that summer of, I won QVC's The Big Find
Mhm.
and launched on air in early 2020 before the pandemic shut everything down. I always say entrepreneur years are like dog years.
Mhm.
because like a human year is 7 dog years. And I feel like for an entrepreneur, so much can happen in a short period of time that it just,
Yeah, seriously. I have
it's
a
like a whirlwind, honestly, but you're in the moment, like you're just doing the things. You're not really thinking about it like from a calendar perspective. It's just like on to the next thing and on to the next thing and on to the next. So yeah, sometimes I even have to sit back and think, I feel like I've been doing it for so long. And I realize that it's actually not that long.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely understand that. So where is the business present day? So you all had these big breaks but where are you now? Are you all still just e-commerce based? Are you in retail? What's the status of the business?
So we were on QVC for 18 months, off and on periodically. And then 2023, we decided to do a reset and just reevaluate all of our platforms, all of our distribution channels. And so we solely focused on e-commerce from our website and really doubling down on our Amazon efforts. Amazon is increasingly becoming the largest retailer or distribution platform for beauty.
Okay.
And so realizing that, we realized we really wanted to double down on that. However, also understanding that in order to be successful, you do need to have a good omni distribution strategy, right? You got to be all the places where your customer is. And
Mhm.
so, having said that, super excited about 2025 because we are getting ready to launch in our first brick and mortar retailer, which I can't say what it is right now, but we are beyond excited about it. It is a huge step for us. And yeah,
Even though you can't mention the brand, are you able to tell us how you are having to prepare for that launch?
absolutely. I will say we've always known that we needed an omni-channel. I was trying to think of the word earlier, it wasn't coming to me.
Mhm.
Omni-channel strategy. So even before we got this opportunity, we were doing the things to make sure when the opportunity came that we would be prepared. And so that is making sure we had a solid supply chain. The pandemic really disrupted a lot of things, and particularly for small businesses. So realizing that we needed to have a good supply chain, and that meant our manufacturers needed to have a solid supply chain. So making sure that was in place. Our 3PL strategy get in terms of how do we get the product from the manufacturer to the end customer, whether that's a person or a retailer, making sure that system was in place. And so we spent the last 12 to 18 months, really solidifying all of those, sure that when this opportunity came, that we wouldn't be scrambling to
Right.
make sure that like, we already had that in place. And we were just working on the opportunity because this did not come overnight. This has been honestly a 4-year journey.
Okay.
And I think it's really important, no matter what your product is, whether it's a physical product or a service, to understand that almost nothing happens overnight. Like you might announce it and it feels like it's overnight to your community, but this has been a 4-year process of talking to people all across this organization. Because I think it's important to understand, especially when you're an emerging brand, is that the retailer is also taking a risk. Like they're trusting that even though you're not a conglomerate, right? You're not a global conglomerate. You're not Procter and Gamble or Estee Lauder or L'Oreal. They're trusting that you can do what you say you can do.
Your end of the bargain.
They're trusting when they give you that real estate
Yep.
that there's going to be something in that spot.
Yep.
It's not going to be empty. And so a lot of times when we hear no, we get very discouraged. And frankly, we hear no more than we hear yes as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
But use that as an opportunity to try to learn, like, why.
Mhm.
Was the no really a not yet? Was the no, you're not ready? Was the no, come back to us, keep us updated? And when somebody tells you no, but keep us updated, do that.
Right.
They want to see your progress. They want to see, are you growing? They want to see, was the reason they said no, have you overcome that obstacle? And so while I know it can be disheartening to hear it, use those no's as opportunities to learn and figure out, are there gaps in my business? Are there gaps in my pitch? Are there gaps somewhere that I need to fill so that conversation can keep moving?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is great advice. Now, one of the things that this particular program or cohort I love about it is that we have the opportunity to hear or work with business owners like yourself who you're not 100% at startup phase, but you're not fully at that propaganda level. So you're like in that purgatory phase. And we go through all of these things that is gonna really catapult you to, like, that next level, right? And so, talk to me about why you wanted to be a part of something like that, and then something like this community in particular. And then as you think about our last 6 weeks, what are some of the things that stood out to you? So, we know we have our focus on collaboration, we have things like becoming, more bankable, we have our supply chain readiness. What were some of the things that really allowed you to think about what's gonna happen next with your organization?
First, let me say I've been over the past 4, 5 years in a lot of cohorts, and this one is very unique in many ways. And namely, it's your pillars, like where you put your stake in the ground, and everything revolves around that. First and foremost, bankability. Like, that's not even a term that I had heard of until a few years ago.
Okay.
Because I think many entrepreneurs think that the relationship they have with the bank as a regular consumer, like a clearinghouse, really, like where how you pay your bills. And that is not what you need as a business owner. And we just don't know what we don't know. And to have someone or a cohort like Smart CEO really take the time to explain, what does that mean and how can I get my business to that place? And it involves sometimes having difficult conversations with financial experts who are going to tell you where the holes are, and like, but you can fix it, but you got to fix this before you get to the next step. And that is just so critical. And I've not been a part personally of a cohort that placed so much emphasis on bankability, because you're never going to be able to scale
Mhm.
until you get that part of your financial house in order. And it's completely separate from your personal. Your personal finances are a part of it. There's just so much we don't know about how businesses collaborate with bankers. And then there's that mistrust, right? That as a community we've had. And so the fact that you guys bring in solid financial professionals that also look like us and understand the challenges that we have, that is just so invaluable.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of the entrepreneurs who have not been in other cohorts maybe still don't know the value
Mhm.
that you bring to them. And I hope by the end that we wrap. That's the one thing I want everyone to come away with. You have to have a banker,
Mhm.
and you have to let them teach you how to be bankable. I am just so grateful for Brandon and every opportunity I get to sing his praises, and Kaneo, just that whole JP Morgan team, like just so invaluable. I could go on 30 minutes just naming names of people.
Right.
Um, the other thing is your pillar of collaboration is
Mhm.
also very unique. Like you hear it, but nobody spends time talking to you about the importance of it. And previously, it's been inherent on me as an individual entrepreneur. Follow up with that person. I think we should connect. Whereas you guys you've created a platform and a system for that through Mighty Networks
Mhm.
because everybody's crazy busy and you have intentions of, and then something will come up and then 6 months later, oh my God, I didn't go back and
Mhm.
touch base with so and but having a platform that allows you to do that and that's like evergreen and we can have access to the information that the next cohort is going to have. That is so important. Whereas other cohorts, and I've gotten something from every single one, but they're like for that moment in time. And
Mhm.
if you don't get everything you need for it in that moment, out of it in that moment in time, it's okay, it's gone.
Just
And
close
so I
up.
appreciate the evergreenness of the content and the resources and the SMEs that you've made available to us.
Yeah.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So, how many people do you have on your team now?
We're small but mighty. So in terms of full time, we actually have two full-time people.
Okay. Okay.
Everyone else is now we have board members who are
Mhm.
subject matter experts in their own right. And everyone else on our team 1099 employees, they're consultants, but they are still part of the team. And many of them have been with me, honestly, from the beginning, whether that's our website developer or our branding expert that does all of the copy and the logos for our packaging. Sometimes it's nice to have people that have been with you from the beginning of the journey
Mhm.
and have watched you progress. And you don't have to do a whole lot of explaining
Exactly.
she gives me like
Yeah.
and I'm really grateful for that. So, yeah, that's how we've grown the business,
But I
and
think
that's
that
worked
that's
for
awesome, and
us.
I think that is probably as someone listening and they're thinking, "Oh, she probably has 20 employees if she's getting ready to go into a big retailer." No, you actually don't have to have that many people when you're scaling. Like, eventually, maybe it's still achievable to get to these places where you can still expand beyond your kitchen, right? I'm
I'm not doing all the things. I want that to be very clear, but
right.
they're 1099, they're consultants. We don't have an
Full-time office, and I think that
right, right.
that's something that, to me, I love about the new ecosystem of work,
Mhm,
right? Is we don't need the staff all the time, and it is allow us to be a little bit more agile, especially when
mhm.
we're trying to navigate spaces, where maybe we want to have opportunities where you need smaller companies or distribution or whatever, right? Because I know we talk about minimums being 50,000, but oftentimes you may work with a distributor who just focuses on like those smaller size, right? Or organizations that want to work specifically with just sample size or whatever, right? So it ends up working to your benefit oftentimes. One of the things that we talked about this particular cohort were exit strategy and then acquisition. So, when you think about what your end game is or your long game, what were some things that came up for you when you went through that particular session?
Jody did that session. A lot of the things that she talked about were things that we have also talked about as a team in terms of what that might look like for us, whether that is us doing the acquiring or what an exit strategy would look like. I would say that first and foremost, my goal is to build a global brand. And then once you scale to a certain point, then you have a lot of options.
Mm,
And so I think when we get to that point, we will begin looking at all of the options that we discussed during those sessions and determine like what is the best for us? What is our best legacy
mm,
strategy? But the first priority right now is becoming a global brand. And then once you get to that point, then that's when we can look at what is our legacy strategy at that next point. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
yeah.
I think it depends on your goals as a founder, and sometimes that might change.
So when
The
you want to
yeah.
be a global brand, how would you define a global brand? What would solidify to you I'm a global brand? Like I'm sold in multiple countries or I have this many retailers, or how would you define that?
All of the above,
Okay. Okay.
because I know my customer is a global customer.
Yeah.
I say my customer looks like America, but America looks like the globe.
Yeah.
And so I know that I have a global customer. So it would only make sense that I would in this brand beyond the boundaries of the United States or beyond the boundaries of North America. And we get inquiries all the time
Yeah.
about how come I can't find this product? And it's
This
like,
country. Yeah.
we're coming. We're coming.
I actually used to work at a similar company, not a hair care company, but in cosmetics. And so a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, I know all too well. One of the things that I work directly with founders on is, and we talk about this in Smart, but is making sure that the founder is in alignment with their business strategy, right? So, for example, I'm a mom of four. All of my children are under the age of 10. And if I was to say, I want to grow a global brand right now, but I also want to be at all of my children's activities, and I also want to be the room parent, and I also want to be the Girl Scout cheerleader, that would be like severe cognitive dissonance, right? But yet, I have several founders and CEOs that tend to do this when they're strategizing, right? In their mind, they say, I want to grow as fast and as big as I want to, right? But it doesn't necessarily align with kind of that life plan. And so I'm curious for you when you decided, okay, I want to be a global brand, what were some of the things that you had to identify in your personal life to make sure that the global brand was going to satisfy your needs as a human, as a woman, as an individual?
In all transparency, when I started this company, we were empty nesters. And I say this to young entrepreneur moms all the time. I don't know how you do it because I would never have done this. And I only have two kids. I don't know where I would have had the bandwidth. And I know women do it. I'm not saying it's not possible. So please, young moms, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, knowing me and all those things you ticked off,
Mhm.
being at all the events, being the room mom, being the PTO president, be like all the committees, like I don't, and working a full-time job, like I don't know that I had the bandwidth. So then for me, this was the perfect time in my life. Even though I didn't plan to do it, it was the perfect time in my life to do it. But having said that, every founder is going to make some sacrifices. I
Mhm.
don't know what your sacrifices are going to be. And
Mhm.
you might not even know what they're going to be until you get to that point. But there are going to be personal sacrifices that you make. All of my friends are retiring and doing all the things we said we were going to do when our children became adults. I'm not doing any of those things with them. And that's a sacrifice for me because I want to do those things, but I am working. So I don't do the girls' trips to whatever. Because I am working,
Mhm.
that is a sacrifice. Now, they still love me and they understand and they are so proud of me and they are my biggest cheerleaders. But so for me, I sacrifice relationships.
Mhm.
They're not the relationships are good, like, we're 100%, but that's something I don't get to do right now.
Right.
In the future, of course, yes, but that's something I don't get to do. So that's just one example of a personal sacrifice that I know that I am consciously making. Organizations that I would love to be active in and have a role in, I don't have the bandwidth.
Mhm.
I just can't. I can't do it. And so it'll be something else for someone else. I can't say what that's going to be for you, but if you're not prepared, you can do all the things. You just can't do all the things at once.
And that's really what I wanted to hear from you. And I wanted the audience to hear because that's something that I also think makes Smart CEO special is that we acknowledge that you can be all things, but everybody's season is going to be very different. And you can still be a smart CEO in different seasons of your life, right? Like I'm a full time business owner, but the way that I operate my business is in very much a collaboration season, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to go and obtain new business, right? And
Mm.
so I collaborate with Kyra. She's very great with that. She has opportunity to do that. And then I can still grow my business on the back end. And so you find what works in your
Yeah.
season. I love what you said around not yet. And so there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm in this full time role and I'm doing well. Okay.
Right.
Eventually, you may decide to grow a global brand 10 years from now, and it's still possible once you become an empty nester. And so I think that what we try to acknowledge with smart CEOs is really being smart about what season you're in, but
Yeah.
then also acknowledging, to your point, those sacrifices, because every season comes with a sacrifice. So early in your 20s, 30s, you might have had all the girl trips. And then later in life, you sacrifice it. Or maybe you didn't have them in the front end and now you get them later in life. It's like kind of that balancing act that we know is not perfect, but creating awareness around it and being in charge of it is the strategy that we try to employ beyond just the business strategy, is that life strategy that we talk
Yeah.
about. So,
Yeah.
so before I let you go, if someone is thinking about potentially applying for our next cohort, or if they're listening to this a year from now, we have something coming up. What would you say to them about a smart CEO and why they should consider us?
I think Smart CEO is one of the most holistic entrepreneur cohorts that I've ever encountered because it really touches on everything that you need to be successful from the inside out. Very few cohorts focus on the personal, but like you're a whole human being with other things going on in your life, and life still happens even in the middle of trying to grow your company. I talked on the bankability part, the collaboration, the real estate part. Like, even though I'm not particularly looking for that right now, just the idea that you brought a subject matter expert in, like that was so crucial because there could be someone thinking they need to go out and lease a bunch of office space to look like a real company. And you absolutely do not. Like, I am in my home office. So I think you peel back some layers and you make people rethink some things that maybe they thought this is the way things have to be done. And that's the thing that I really loved about it. And also the ever being component of it, of still having access to the resources and the materials and all the subject matter experts and your fellow cohort members, like having a platform to reach people that maybe there's no collaboration opportunity right now, but maybe 6 months from now. So now you still have a way to reach that person. So I think it's such a worthwhile investment and I highly recommend it. Yeah, I can't say enough about it.
Thanks for listening to Smart Chat. Smart CEOs, you are on your way. We hope this episode has been fantastic for you. We are excited that you were here. So here's the deal. Follow us on all of our social media, look up the Kyra Company, and join us on all of our private platforms. We invite you to join our private Facebook group at the Smart CEOs. Jump in, join the conversation, and learn more about what we can do every day to grow our business and grow our community. Thanks so much for joining us. We're excited that you were here. Once again, I'm Kyra Hardwick, and you know it. I was thrilled to bring the Smart Chat to you. Take care. Talk to you soon.